Our story is the illustrator's notebook. It's a story about an artist that was born and raised in Egypt, in Cairo, Egypt. His name is Muhyiddin al-Abbad. The illustrator's notebook is a memoir, and that means that it's a true story. It's the story of the author himself. His father wanted him to become a doctor, which would make him the first in his family. But our narrator had a different dream of becoming a streetcar conductor. But he didn't become one. Instead, he became a storyteller, a dreamer. And in his stories, he could be anything and everything he ever wanted to be. Our story is not linear. It doesn't all happen in a chronological order. This happened first when he was a child, and then this happened when he grew up a little. This happened when he was an adult. No, it doesn't happen in a certain order. It's not like other stories with a setting, a beginning, a middle, and an end. No, it's a notebook made up of different stories at different points in his life. The more we read through, the more we know him as a person. The more we read through, the more we know him as a person. In the illustrator's notebook, our award-winning author narrates 7 stories that he has told in 7 different times in his life. Some when he was a child and some when he was a grown up. The first story is called Souvenirs. He speaks about the different definitions for the word souvenir, for what is a souvenir as we know it. An amazing take, an amazing perspective, an amazing look on the world and all the things in it. Such a beautiful, beautiful story. It talks about the things that we see in the world, the things that we leave in the world after we die, and how they could be souvenirs for other people after us. The next story is called A Childhood Dream. As the title of the story tells us, this is what he wanted as a child. And this is how he saw the world back then as a child, how different his look at the world than any other normal child. What was his motivation in having this particular dream? Such an interesting and amazing story to come from the perspective of a small boy. The third story is called Where Do Stories Come From? And in this story, he tells us how did this notebook, the illustrator's notebook that we're looking at, came about, and the circumstances surrounding its creation. How did he decide to do that, and how did it come about? In every story, there is a picture, and this picture was his creation. He drew that as a boy. And the text in the picture is how he told the story. So he would draw the picture and then write about the picture to tell a story. From the drawings, we can tell that he wasn't the best drawer in the world. And we can also tell that these drawings are not made by a painter. He wasn't a drawer. His art wasn't about drawing. No, his art was in the way he told the story. His art was in the way he would make this picture that you're looking at and everything that surrounds it, how random it is to be an actual work of art, for everything that is in it to come together to create something that is beautiful. In the next story, which is called A Postage Stamp, this is the 4th story. In this story, he talks about his dreams to see the world. Every one of us dreams to travel the world, dreams to see what other countries has to offer. How they were all awakened by a single postage stamp that he received from a pen pal of his in their exchange of letters. A pen pal is a person that is a friend of yours, but your friendship is over letters. You didn't see each other, you're just writing to each other. Or maybe you were friends in the past and now you're writing to each other. But most importantly, the letters are the definition of your friendship. It's the nature of your friendship is the letters. Now, of course, it's different. Now we just text. But back then, when it was a lot slower, there was a lot of excitement when you would be waiting for a letter. And that would make your mind wander. And in that age, he wasn't a grown up yet, he was young. And what inspired his ambition to travel the world was the postage stamp that he would get on the letter of his friend Karim. The fifth story is called Discoveries. In this story, our narrator speaks about how things that we look at every day might hold secrets that are quite obvious, and yet they are secrets. Because they are so obvious to us, we might not even see them. Because looking at something doesn't necessarily mean that we see it. The sixth story is called Left and Right, the one with the Superman picture. In this story, he compares between us as an Eastern community and the Western world, for how we read from right to left and how they read from left to right. He wonders if that affects the way we and they dream in our sleep. What kind of person? This inspires a very different perspective, such an interesting and different look at the world, a very different look at things that would only a true artist can see. And our narrator saw it at a very young age. The last story is called Upside Down, story number 7. In this story, he speaks about how stories inspired him to see things differently, which in essence is the theme of our entire unit this term. In the end, we need to understand the similarities and differences between the last two texts, which in fact is comparing not only stories but also authors, whether it was Rafiq Shami or our award-winning beautiful author Muhyiddin Abad.